Hey everybody, what's going on? Thanks so much for tuning in today. My name is Kevin. I'm from Eau Claire, one of the trainers up there. Today we are going to talk about strength and power. All right, strength and power. You've probably heard these sayings before, these words, these terms from your trainer or from somebody else. We're telling you to get stronger in the gym, but we're also telling you to be powerful or explosive. And those are two actually very distinct different things. They are connected, but they are distinct, and they are important for us to know, and they're important for us to train whenever we're in the gym or we're at home crushing these at-home workouts. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why strength is important in your workouts. We're going to go briefly into that, and then we're also going to talk about why power, and a lot about why power is so important and how it translates well to life. So we're going to talk about those things today. We are going to start by discussing and just giving a kind of a blanket overview of what strength is. So here's what strength is. So strength is your ability to exert force on an object. All right, we're going to get just a little into physics today, but just to help me explain and help you understand what the difference is between strength and power. So strength is your ability to exert force on an object. All right, if you are able to exert a force that is stronger than the other forces that are acting on it, like gravity, then that object will start to move. You know, if you do a bicep curl, if you are exerting that force with your muscle on that weight that is stronger than the act of gravity, that dumbbell, that weight will start to rise, and you will be doing a bicep curl. That is exerting force on an object. When you exert force enough to make it move, that is called work. All right, in physics that is called work. That's what we'll define work here as today. So work is, I'll put it up in the corner here, but work is force times displacement or distance, however far you move it. That's how much work you did on an object. That will come into play when we are talking about power, but for strength, all right, that is what we are going to use. So when you're exerting a force on an object, how hard you can exert your force and how much of an object, how much weight you can move is typically what we are seeing as strength. So just to give you a quick example, you know, if you are two people and one is squatting with 50 pounds, but one is squatting with 55, the person generally would be seen with the 55 would be seen as stronger. Okay. One thing that is to know about strength is that it is actually a very unidimensional aspect or measurement that we can use in the gym. All right. I put up my air quotes there in for that previous example for a reason, because just because someone is lifting a heavier weight doesn't actually mean that they are stronger, because we're not taking into account the weight of each person, we're not taking account into the height, the limb length, a whole bunch of different factors. So that is why it doesn't really help to compare when it comes to strength or anything like that, unless you are competing for something. So but generally we'll keep it kind of simple here today for this definition of strength. But if you lift a higher amount of weight for the same given exercise, you would be seen as stronger. So we'll keep it in your example, just you. But if you are, 3 months, you're doing 50 on a squat, but then a month later you're grabbing the 60s for the squat, great, you got stronger, you're able to move more weight over distance. So that's what we're going to be using for strength. Keep that in mind when we start talking about power, which is coming up next. So we just talked about strength, and remember how we said that strength is a unidimensional, or it is more of a one-dimension measure of your ability. Well, power, on the other hand, is a multi-dimensional. It takes a couple different aspects into it, and strength is one of those aspects. So power is your ability to move a weight, to exert a force over time. All right, so power includes the time aspect of it, right? Generally, you're going to have a lot more power when it comes to a certain weight if you move it quicker. All right, so remember how we said that, for strength we're going to use the work definition, or the work equation, which is right up here. We'll put it up here this time. work equals force times displacement, right? So if that is for strength, then power is work over time, or force times displacement over time. With that time being in the denominator, bringing in math into it really quick. With the time being in the denominator, the smaller that time is, the more power you are going to exert, you are going to end up with. So for a quick example, let's say I put 2 newtons of force, which is that's the measurement that you use for force, 2 newtons of force on an object that is displaced 2 meters, but I do that over 2 seconds, so 2 times 2 is 4, and then divided by 2, I would have a power output of 2, right? So, but let's just say I split that time in half. So if I have 2 newtons, 2 force, 2 newtons right there, and then I have move it over 2 meters, again, same displacement there, but then I split that time in half, so I move it over 1, that would be 2 times 2 is 4 over 1, which is 4. So I doubled my power output simply by splitting that time in half. So when we're talking about power in the gym, we want you to move things explosively. We want you to move them as fast as possible. The strength component, the amount of weight that you have, is important, but using power to move that weight as quickly as possible and getting it into that position, keeping your body strong, is a very, very practical skill, all right? We're gonna get into up next why you need to worry about power, why you need to worry about strength in general, and how those two really come together to help you see your goals. So a lot of you know I've trained athletes in the past, and with athletes and training for specific competitions, you have to periodize or make a strategy and a plan about how you are going to train. So generally when you are training for a period of, for an activity, whether it's a sport or a competition, you're going to develop your strength first. You need that baseline level of strength, but then you are going to, after your strength develops to a more of a desirable location, you're going to transition into moving into power movements. So you're trying to show how you can use that strength in those power movements. So I kind of just gave you the key right there, but why should you worry about power? Power is the key to translating the strength gains in the gym that you've built, that you've worked so hard to get, and translating them into your daily life skills, all right? So it is super, super applicable to our daily lives. That power is that key, that is that middleman. If we just do strength and then we see if we can translate it to life, a lot of times it's going to be very difficult for our body. That power training is teaching our body to be able to use the strength that we've accomplished, that we've built in our everyday life, and move simply just better and be a stronger person overall. So some examples for this, all right? Just a couple examples that I thought of when I was preparing this, but let's say you have a small child, right? You have a small child and they say, up, 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 right? They want to be picked up. You need some strength for that, right? So generally, when you're going to bend down, you're going to get into your squat, you're going to hold that child, you're going to stand them back up, and then you're going to hold them, right? What you don't realize when you do this is that you actually are including power in that movement as well, all right? There's many joints, many muscles involved in that, and sometimes, especially as your kid gets bigger, I know a lot of you moms can relate to this, you can't just simply squat down and pick them up like you could when they were a baby. You have to kind of jump them up and then maybe land them on your hip so you can get into that good position to hold them. Great demonstration of power right there, right? They weigh more, and you realize that, hey, I have to get this weight up in order to hold my child. So you increase the time, or decrease the time that it takes for you to get that child up there, which is increasing the speed. That gives you a little split second to get under there and to catch that child. The end result is the same, but you did it much faster, so there was a lot more power. That is one example that I thought of. Another thing, just very, very, kind of relatable too, but still kind of on that same wavelength, is let's say you have a heavy box that you need to put up onto a high shelf or something like that. Well, if you had a lighter box, you would just pick it up, you'd turn it, and you'd put it up, right? If you have a heavier box, sometimes you gotta squat down, you gotta get ready, you gotta brace that core, you gotta jump it up just to your hips, and then you might have to lift it up a little to your chest, switch your hands really quickly, jump it up to your shoulders, jump it up to your up to the ceiling, and then up onto that shelf. Those jumps, you are decreasing the time in that aspect. You are increasing the amount of force that you put over a lower amount of time. That results in a little easier energy output, I would say, to accomplish that same goal. So it's also a lot safer in the grand scheme of things too. So why should you worry about power is because improving that power performance will improve your strength as well. So if you're able to lift a heavier weight using some powerful movements, you're also going to improve your strength in the gym as well, and just your general strength. So one last quick example of that, we'll keep it nice and simple. If you have 2 dumbbells in the gym, you're using 15s and you're doing shoulder press and you're not using anything else other than shoulders, great, right? Shoulder press. But if I give you 25s all of a sudden, you're like, wow, how can I do this? You're naturally gonna be like, okay, I need to brace my core, I need to use my legs and drive those dumbbells up. That is a great example of power. And by doing that movement, you're getting your shoulders used to managing that 25 pounds instead of 15, which gets you stronger. All right, so I kind of hope you're seeing and making that connection between why you need to, yes, train for strength. It's good to use those 15s from time to time, but increasing power and increasing that explosiveness of that movement and increasing the weight all at the same time will help you get stronger, and more importantly, help you translate those strength gains into your daily life. So, and whatever that might be. So up next, we are going to talk about how we can use this info, all this crazy info. I know I gave you a lot of stuff today, but how can we use this info at home, and how can it apply to our lives more specifically? So how do you do this at home? All right, how do you do this at home? We'll talk about a little at home and a little tips for when you get back in the gym, all right? So biggest thing you can do when you're performing compound movements, all right? Compound movements are things like a squat, multi-joint, whole body exercises, right? So a squat, maybe like a push-up as well, a shoulder press kind of deal too. Those are all compound exercises. You want to perform those explosively, all right? As much power and as fast as you can. You want a heavy weight, but you want a powerful and a fast movement, all right? Decrease that time like we talked about earlier. That is how you're gonna train for power. Before you start training for power, I would really recommend that you get your baseline strength up to par. So if you find yourself like you are still making strength gains on a regular basis, especially in these at-home workouts, keep doing that, okay? Keep going, keep doing what you're doing. You're developing that strength baseline that you need. After you've gotten to that point, you're kind of start to slow down on those strength gains. Now it's time to hit that power. All right, now it's time to hit that power. So when you're doing strength, just keep trying to lift heavier lift heavier weights, use those muscles and get stronger, right? But then when you've hit that kind of threshold, power training is very, very applicable to you in that scenario. So when you get back to the gym, that's when you start doing those more explosive things. So if we give you a squat to curl to press, if we give you that in the gym, strength, if you're going for strength, just do the squat, the curl, the press. If you are going for power, change that into a dumbbell snatch. You start on the ground, snatch it all the way up. You do all 3 of those movements without any sort of difference, or without, they're connected in everything that they are. So you're making them all one fluid movement. So that is how you are training for power. Don't do it on isolation movements. So you're doing a bicep curl, it's always going to be the same no matter if you're doing for strength or power. You're really not going to do power movements for isolation, for single joint exercises. So use all of this information in your training, especially at home right now. If you are struggling to see strength gains right now, make it a more explosive, all right? If you're taking jumps out of it because your knees hurt, you can still make an explosive movement. Do your speed squats faster. Think about exploding up off the ground as if you were to jump, but it doesn't take necessarily a jump. So do those movements faster. That will really help those strength gains, and get powerful. So I hope today's video was super helpful for you. We covered a lot of different math and physics, but hopefully I gave you some practical steps and ideas about how you can improve your strength and also how you can improve your power and why you definitely need to improve both of those. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name's Kevin. Thanks so much everybody for tuning in today, and I hope you have a fantastic day.